AI is only as powerful as the platform it's built into. That's why it's no surprise that more than 85% of the Fortune 500 use the ServiceNow AI platform. While other platforms duct tape tools together, ServiceNow seamlessly unifies people, data, workflows, and AI, connecting every corner of your business. And with AI agents working together autonomously, anyone in any department can focus on the work that matters most. Learn how ServiceNow puts AI to work for people at ServiceNow.com. Hey everyone, welcome to Served. We are going to do our top 20 countdown recap, something. Is that what it's called? I don't know. JW in the house. Mike is not. He's at a recital.
Ooh,
but here we are.
recital.
We're going to try to get through them without Techie Sean behind the boards. Okay, so we did this last year. Basically, pretty straightforward. We're going to go from 20 to 1. The ATP rankings. The next episode will be WTA rankings, but this is ATP centric. What went right? What went wrong? And maybe take a little peek forward. JW, you're in an office. That's great. You're not like on a plane this week.
This is my last day of the year in the office. As you can hear, authentic New York street sounds behind me. Hopefully, we'll be home for the rest of the year.
I'll tell you, I did something last Wednesday that was really, really fun. I traveled to Miami, and I had to do a little clinic and a little chat at the Junior Orange Bowl, 14 and 12 and under editions, which I played back in 1995, and ended up doing a clinic. I guess they didn't have many people show up last year, and I don't know how many kids were there. It was hundreds of kids. And we just ripped it for like an hour and a half, and it was the best time
love
ever.
that.
And I'm
Say
not
more.
Say more.
That's great.
I've never had this feeling before, and I'm not in the business of saying names of phenoms just because I think no attention is needed at this point. I don't think I've ever had the feeling of seeing someone hit. Like, you hear these stories a lot, right? Where someone goes, oh, I saw this person I saw Alcaraz when he was 13 and I just knew, right? I've seen kids that are like, oh, that's really good. Yeah, that's fantastic, but you don't know what's going to happen. I saw a young woman who was in the draw, and I'm pretty convinced I saw someone who I think is going to be number one in the world. First time I've ever felt that way. Yeah, not gonna throw it out there, but got to hit with her next to her. She was my partner for a little bit. So two things. The racket on ball skills were like impossibly good on the short hop. I was like sitting there, I was having so much fun watching. And then you'd give them like one little piece of advice, like on a chip, and they execute it perfectly and choose the right ball to do it on. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I had a great time. So that was my traveling for last week. You were
I love that.
Yeah, it was
that's
awesome.
That's a great story. B, thank you for not mentioning the name. The last thing I'm sure this teenager needs is Andy Roddick says that Susie Q is a future number one. In my unpaid side hustle as Chris Everett's publicist, wonderful human being, should we acknowledge this was the new Jimmy Everett complex, right? New stadium court.
Well, I think that's where the big kids are playing. This was at a separate. I think they don't all play 18s through 12s. I think they have separate venues, but you should shout out Jimmy Chrissy. I took a lesson from Jimmy Everett in Fort Lauderdale when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was there watching my brother play national clay courts. So my story and affinity for the Everett family and Jimmy Everett go back a long ways as well.
I love that. As long as we're plugging here, Colette Lewis does a great job covering junior tennis. I just got her Orange Bowl wrap up on the Zoo Tennis website. If you'd like results and which of these teenagers broke through just now in South Florida, go to Zoo Tennis.
It's really cool. I'll tell you one story that I told the kids, right? You're speaking to a bunch of kids, like, how do you grab their attention? How do you make it seem like they need to understand all the work that it takes, and they also need to understand that this is something they can actually reach and grasp and get and become and all this stuff. So we were, it's 4 courts. We were at the Biltmore Tennis Complex. There's 4 courts, and we were all the way over to the left behind this old pro shop. Right, looked the exact same as 30 years ago. They were setting up for their player party dance, which is the exact same place I saw Kim Clijsters break the ice with some Belgian shuffle back in 1995. Anyway, so it's like, listen, every country has like their guy that could win the tournament. I was not that person. I was tiny, and it just wasn't going to happen for me. I was there to participate and get some reps in. And our guy was Dave Martin, who ended up playing, doubles on tour, played at Stanford. But, Dave was like #1 in the country in 16s and went down to play 14s Orange Bowl to try to win the world championship. So seeded like 2. I'm pretty sure Dave already had a beard at that point. But the way junior tennis works is you get back from there's a 90% chance that we got back from Subway because that's all we ate then, which I don't know. I don't know if you've been to one recently. It didn't age well. But anyways, so we get back and all of a sudden people go, Dave Martin is lost the first set to a qualifier. And so all of us rush over to that court, right? We're like, this is like a bigger upset than Lake Placid, right? There's no way that Dave Martin could be losing, especially to a qualifier. So we get over there. Dave wins the second set. We're watching the entire third set. Dave starts losing. He's playing this skinny little dude, like guys just chopping him up, right? Like it's just craziest thing. So Dave loses. And that's the first time I ever saw Roger Federer play. Was when he beat Dave Martin on that court.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I told the kids that. They're like, no way, we're in qualies right now. I'm like, well, saw it with my own eyeballs. And I didn't realize it was I was witnessing my future with Dave Martin losing to Roger Federer in that match. Anyways, let's get to the top 20. JW, just give us your thoughts, a little bit of a rundown. Tommy Paul, obviously played great. I think his upward trajectory consistently has built himself into just a really, really good, complete tennis player. It felt like the last 6 months of the year, he was fighting something and it was hurt, and then something else was hurt, and it kind of became, at least it felt like, a little bit of chicken or the egg. I think all we hope for him next year is to get a clean run of health. This is someone who's been in the last 4 of a Grand Slam, well-rounded player, super smart, great athlete. 20, you can't really say, it doesn't feel like a backtrack. I think a lot of, I guess, his ranking regression is because of health, right?
So yeah, it's exactly what you said. I think he, there was an adductor injury during the clay, and then there was another injury at Wimbledon. And you've said this before, and I think it's a point that we don't make enough, that when you're a little bit dinged up, there are these compensatory injuries,
Yes.
and you end up, aggravating an ankle because you're changing your weight and your threshold on your knee. I think there might be some of that. Yeah, I mean, Tommy Paul, fine player, nice first half of the year. Then the injury started, and it really, I think, he ends up at number 20, but that's not really a reflection of where he is. And you hope he's just rested and ready to go in 2026.
And he's one of those guys you look at and watch. He's made the semis of Australia. He won the Junior French Open. He made the semis of Rome, I think, this year before it started going downhill. He's won Queen's Club. So well-versed on every surface. As good a transition game in tennis this side of Alcaraz, right? His ability to kind of take time away, kind of use his volleys, use his quickness, use his athleticism. I always really enjoy watching Tommy Paul problem solve, and I hope TP is healthy this upcoming year, and hopefully we'll talk more about his tennis than his injuries in next year. I'm curious to hear your take and where you stand on Jakub Mensik, who finishes 19 in the world this year. Obviously, the result, Miami, accounts for almost half of his points for the entire year. He was between 40 and 50 going into Miami. Obviously, puts 1,000 on the board. That changes a lot. Rest of the year around 15. I think we expected him to kind of use that as like gasoline for the fire. If you take that result out, ranking says he's still 40 or 50. And I know it's a hypothetical. You can't take away people's best result. I understand it. Is he a guy who's 40, JW, or is he a guy who's 10?
Oh, and there's nothing in between. He's a guy who's 20 years old. So let's let him sort of ease into this and reveal a little more of himself with each year. Yeah, I mean, I think there was one standout result in that Miami tournament. Again, the guy stared down Novak in the final. And I think we all said, oh my gosh, here comes another star, and more of these. This Czech conveyor belt continues to do its thing. This country of 10 million people and a pretty rotten tennis climate keeps pumping out players. And then here comes this big, tall kid. I I got to know him a little bit at Wimbledon. Steve Weissman and I talked to him a few times, and he taught himself to play drums during COVID. There's a real sort of likability to him, but the results really tailed off. And we see this. I mean, we see this. Part of being a professional tennis player is pacing yourself. And you get the feeling he just sort of ran out of steam a little. So nothing that even came close to replicating that Miami result. At the same time, we knew his name. This was a nice player.
Mhm.
He'd played in the Gen. I keep calling it
Next
Gen
gen,
X.
yeah.
The next gen. I don't. I mean, is he a top 10 player? I think so. I mean, I'm not sure this guy's winning
He will
majors.
be. There's
I'm not ready
time,
to say
but it's
that,
just getting.
yeah, there's time. He's 20 years old. So.
Yeah, I one in Miami. His first serve was like alarmingly good, right? Like the tail he was getting on it. I mean, the stats he was putting up, a little hit or miss. I got to think they're working on whether it's footwork based or whatever it is. It seems like the air counts run a little high with Mensik, right? And you can be streaky, but streaky goes both ways. Like you're streaky and get through a game, you still have just won one game. You're streaky the other way and you're down love 30 or love 40, right? He still has that kind of early miss type thing where all of a sudden, for no reason at all, you're serving out of trouble at love 30. Qualifier at the U.S. Open loss. I mean, there are some losses where you figure, okay, with another year of maturity, you got to get through those ugly days, right? And that's what the top players do so well, right? We'll get to, the Zverevs and the Medvedevs later in the show, but what they do is they can take way less than the best we've ever seen them, survive, advance, and then all of a sudden they're in like a quarterfinal. I think that's the next progression for someone like a Mensik, is just finding that consistency and finding a way to where if your game's in the gutter that day, let's start grabbing ankles and pulling your opponent into that gutter too, right? It doesn't have to look perfect, but let's find a way to play down. But Karen Khachanov, we know what he is. Here? Like right. In uber professional, has big results, feels like he's better in the best of 5 format than maybe the best of 3. But what are we seeing? I mean, if you kind of turn back the clock a year, you're going Khachanov finishes at 18. You're going, okay, yeah, let's like the plus minus is 5. There does that sound about right?
Yeah, I don't think he had nearly as good a year as he did in 2024. And you're right, this is someone who, he doesn't play as big as he is. He's had some great results in majors. And it seemed like, there were some flashes this year, and he got to the finals in Canada. I'm looking here. He played a lot of tennis. He played almost 60 matches, but it just, he is what he is, consummate professional. I'm not sure sort of what the ceiling is here. And now he's in his late 20s. I'd say he'd probably say this is a B- year. I mean, it wasn't a disaster, but I'm looking at these. I mean, there's no runaway results. He did not replicate his second round at the Open. This guy's been to the semis in the Open before. So at some level, I wonder if we're at the point now that we got a lot of data points on this guy, and he is what he is. He's a very nice player. He's a professional. He's liked by his colleagues. He'll make a deep run occasionally in a major. I don't know if this is someone who's going to threaten the Sinner Alcaraz duopoly that we'll get to, but one of these nice guys to be part of the cast.
I think my problem is when I'm looking at some of these players is like Khachanov is a great player. I don't know that he's someone that is going to randomly carry a night session that's televised during a second round at a tournament. Not a lot of holes in his game, serves big. I remember when he first came up, he took Rafa to 5 at the U.S. Open, and I went, oh, what? Watch out. Like, this guy's upper 130s register. So we'll see. Is there still a lane where he can improve and have, another 2, 3, 4 year run? TBD. I don't know that there are any secrets now about his game. He's been around long enough to where, you're not scratching your head on where to be effective and what needs to happen in that matchup. But listen, the guys, one thing we'll never do on this show is point at someone 18 in the world who maybe underperform their expectations and say, you know what?
You suck. Yeah, give it up.
The guy's a great player. I mean, he just is. Jiri Lehecka. So I'll tell you when I'm right. I had him going towards the top 10 this year. Didn't quite happen. Had a nice little run at Queen's Club. It's still someone that I just feel like when a top player sees him in the draw, doesn't want to play this guy. Like the eye test is is big. Maybe it's just, maybe we're just kind of defining what the difference is with these first four guys. The difference between 20 and 5 is doing it every week.
I mean, I think there's a bigger theme that I'm sure we'll hit, which is there are two guys who are head and shoulders above the rest of the field, and there are a lot of players like Lehecka who are very fine players. I think he's sort of still in the dangerous category. I mean, I'm not sure we're talking about a future major winner, but I think he's one of these any given day players. Sort of another player from this Czech system, and he didn't seem. I mean, he's one of these guys that we all sort of know about, and we all know what he can do on a given day. I'm not sure he's evolved out of this dangerous floater. I mean, in as much as a guy who's in the top 20 is a floater, but I don't think he's emerged from this kind of dangerous on a given day. But is he a threat to win big events? I'm not quite sure that's there yet.
Andrey Rublev had made World Tour finals every year for what felt like forever. 16 in the world. You show him that, he's going, you know what? That's probably a step backwards this year.
Yeah, we were waiting for the Murat Safin bump never came. Rublev plays an opponent, and he also plays against himself. We've talked about that. You hate to sort of it's 1 year. He did have a couple of nice results flecked in there. 28 years old. Is he going to get back in the top 10? What do you think?
I don't see why he can. I mean, he is capable of big results, right? I mean, the one thing I hope for him, because this whole thing, he's never been in the semis of a Grand Slam. I just don't want that leading the conversation when you start defining his career whenever it's over, right? So I do want him to make that run, make that last four in a Grand Slam event because of the respect that I have for him as a player, right? Is he imperfect emotionally? Sure. Who's not? We all are. Does he handle it perfectly? No. Can he rip your face off with both sides of the ball? Yep. Can he go full rip city, forehand and backhand? Yep. Do we want to see Safin go crazy? Yep.
We like this combo. No, I think just big picture, we talk sometimes the wheels come off. That is not this case. The guy won 34, 35 matches. He's still in the top 20. He's been at the upper echelon for a full decade now. I mean, this year did not meet his standards. I mean, he did not come anywhere close to even having this conversation about getting into to a semifinal because he didn't play particularly well at majors either. Remember the match against Fonseca to kick off his year in Australia, and you got the sense he sort of got to the end of that match and said, "Oh boy, here's someone else I'm going to deal with." But I still think the guy's a solid top 20 player. Let's not sort of lose sight of that.
Over under his current ranking next year at this time.
Health being the variable, I think, given his advancing age, I think this is about. I don't know. I mean,
he's going to go higher.
I'm going March like 12 to 14. I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm taking the under on. He's going to be better than 16, I think, a year from now. Yeah. I just do. And maybe that's just what I hope for, because hopefully that means he made the semis of
and stayed healthy. Healthy.
Exactly,
yeah.
Which I want for him. Speaking of health, and lack of it, Holger Rune in at 15, and this one makes you a little sad. I've talked about Rune's game, and sometimes I watch and it's confusing, and all that doesn't matter when you see someone suffer a major injury like Holger did. All the preferences when we're talking about style of game and temperament, and if you have a thought about it or if you're critical about something, who gives a shit? At this point, we just want him to be healthy, right? An Achilles rupture when you're 22, 23 years old, fighting to be kind of on the upswing, and, a guy who's been 4 in the world obviously has that upside. That's not anything anyone wants to see. I think empathy takes over for any criticism at that point.
This is really unfortunate. We've seen Achilles injuries in other sports, basketball in particular, and I think you hope he makes a full recovery, and if he does, the guy's got 10 more years of runway.
If I'm coaching someone who's going through the exact same thing, I want them projecting all of the energy that Holger is projecting right now. That's what I want. That's what I'd be trying to sell. And also, it's a major traumatic lower leg injury at 22 years old, right? So we can sell it as we want, and I hope he gets back, and I hope we don't even remember it. Kobe Bryant was able to do it. Kevin Durant was able to do it. It can be done. it is a major injury, and we don't often see it in people this young. We are going to have Holger on before the Australian Open to kind of come in, give us an update on his injury, where he's actually at, have a conversation, maybe a retrospective on career to date. And then, listen, he wants to come in and break down some of these current players, which is certainly, we're at the point. He
does, I'm telling you.
We're at the point now where I played Novak, and that's kind of it, right? I need to know how, I think sometimes us talking heads can only know so much without feeling what, a slice from a certain person feels like, or, the ball, of Sinner tumbling towards us. I'm excited that he's coming on and that he kind of wants to try on the analyst hat. So we're going to have him on, I think it's the 13th or that one of those two, the Tuesday show before Aussie Open. I think something that I think is very important to this show is to get more current players on. Francis was nice enough to come on last week. I'm looking forward to having Holger on, and I'm sure we're going to stress test a lot of those opinions that he has about his recovery. But props to him for doing and saying everything possible early on in this recovery. Obviously, he's not going to be ranked 15 at the end of the year, so we'll save ourselves from that projection. I think a win is next year at this time, saying, you know what, I'm healthy enough and aiming for Australia in 27. So happy recovery to Holger Rune, and we'll get him on the show in about a month. Davidovich, Fokina, listen, you're an insane person if you just don't want this guy to win a tournament, right? 14 in the world, has done amazing work, is crazy in all my favorite ways. You just don't know what's going to happen. He's going to come out and hit 40 winners one day. The next day is like, you just don't know what's going to happen. I'm here for it. I like it. I want him to break through and win a tournament. I think it's been talked about so much that he thinks about it too much. Obviously, there are way less capable players who have won at a tour event. He is better than most of the tour. What say you, Jon Wertheim, with Davidovich Fokina?
Let me ask you a sort of a philosophical question. How much does a tournament title really mean? I mean, this guy, he won.
It's a good question.
In front of me, it's like 45 matches. What do you win? 44 matches. He's passed $10 million in career prize money. We know how good he is. He's played deep into May. I mean, there's so much to like here. Do we? I'm painting the jury here, but if he wins Almaty, he wins some 250, and he no longer is. It's like Anna Kournikova. But I mean, should we really care if he wins a 250 and this is no longer his label? Does it really change anything materially?
Okay, I'm with you. I agree with most of what you're saying, and nothing tour based will change if he goes and wins a tournament. Nothing will change, and it's on his mind. He talks about it very openly. So for his brain and his mental faculties and everything going on in there to get over that hump and win a tournament is a big deal. Like, it will be a big deal for him. And in a career retrospective, would you rather be 70 in the world and have won a tour title, or 14 in the world and be Davidovich Fokina without a tournament title? Probably 14 in the world. I don't know. You got a clear path to the round of 16. That's some good cash. At Slam. So I think your point is well taken. And also, when the tour is just getting taller and taller and taller and taller, this guy's doing a great job. I mean, it's not easy. He's a guy who's 6'6". He still hits a big ball.
Nice
right?
wheels too, right?
Big wheel. Those calves, ooh, he's top 3 calves. I'll tell you that much right now. Those things can flex. Is still fully committed to the sock thing. He doesn't have a matching pair of socks still, I think.
We like quirk.
I do like characters. I like quirk. I like it when people go crazy. I like it when they have a little sock thing. I like it when, you go from the shaved head to the short one back to, I don't know.
Samurai,
I like Davidovich
man.
Fokina. I do. I like him. I don't know him from anyone. I've never met him, I don't think. And I want him to win a tournament. I will be very happy for him. I don't know why I'm so invested in it. I just think he's too good not to have won it, and I like his crazy. I hope he wins. That's my wish. One of my if I get 10, if I had a top 10 wish list for 2026, I'll burn one of them on Almaty. Whatever you said, wherever he's going to win.
All right, here comes a segue. Speaking of Almaty, would you burn a top 10 wish on the number 13 player?
A top 10. Well, I'll tell you this. So the 13 player, great segue, is Daniil Medvedev. right? And so we need to give some credit to, obviously he didn't play as well. I talked to him for a while, and I asked him, I go, can I talk about this on years? Typical Medvedev, I don't really care what you talk about. It's great. Okay. So we talk, and I think he was just trying to, I had dropped down and then kind of made a run back to the top 3 during my career. And, it basically just, I think chatting through it with someone who maybe had been through similar struggles, had won a slam, had been one, but then all of a sudden these superheroes come along and it's a bit of an uphill battle. So let's give credit where credit's due, right? And I think a lot of people maybe correctly say that I go soft on Medi when he goes nuts. I find it highly entertaining. And also I have a lot of respect for someone who can tell you 2 days later, yeah, I probably went too far. But I will tell you, after the US Open, he drops out of the top 20, right? Hasn't been winning anything, not back-to-back matches, has been, fully on struggle street. Goes and makes the semis in Shanghai, puts together some results to get himself back into the top 16. So his 2026 actually started post-US Open, right? Putting himself in position to where props. This is someone who could have very easily said, listen, I have this certain pedigree. He's going to be, the volume stats, he keeps going like he's going, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I think. Man. So, so this is someone who could have very easily said, you know what, this year sucks. Fuck this. And he goes, nope, I'm going to lean into the struggle, which is kind of like a microcosm of his entire game for his entire career. So
Medvedev won one match at a major in 2025.
Insane. And he's still 13, by the way.
And he's still 13, and he won that title. I mean, part of this is just you feel for him. He's too good. He's too good a player to be playing this level of tennis. It's nice to see the last 90 days sort of salvaged his year, as you say. I also think selfishly, this ought to be one of the guys who we mention when we talk about who's going to challenge these Alcaraz and Sinner. So nice to see him re-entering this conversation. I mean, he isn't 30 years old yet. I think there's still some good tennis here. He's got to put it together in a major.
I get banged up for being a Medvedev apologist. I also think there is something too. He's really well liked away from the court. The locker room really likes him, and I think I put a lot of stock into that reputational value. You know what? I think he's in the top 10. When you said you won one match at a major, I'm going, man, he still finished 13. He won one match in a major. That was against a guy ranked 400. Well, given the offset, and we obviously are a show that just moved out of a garage, so we don't really have a research department past Techie Sean feverishly just start banging his phone. But one match in a major, 13, that might be the highest ranking versus slam output offset. And it's not as if the guy can't play in slams. He's won them. He's been in finals of, 3 or 4 more. So I think Medi's back in the top 10 next year. I feel very confident after hearing your slam statistic, which I knew, but it wasn't really baked in there.
Let's do Casper. Where do we all like his professionalism. We all like him personally. We wonder, this is the old conversation, right? Does he have the weaponry? Nice, he had one nice win on clay, but I would say a B to B- year for him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think weirdly, I think he did a couple things way better this year. I think he became less predictable on the back end, kind of just rip and cross court. I think he mixed up the line a little bit. I think he went to chip returns a little bit more often. I think Casper knows, listen, if I can have a great clay court season, right? Guys made multiple French Open finals. If I can have a great clay court season and then sneak in a couple big results, I'm 6 or 7 in the world. If I am inconsistent in the clay court season, even with the big result that he was able to have in Madrid, and I don't sneak in a couple, 2, 3 other big results, I'm 12. And I think that's the delta we're talking about. And we make it seem like it's a massive thing. I think it's 4 matches. It's 4 or 5, 6 matches over the course of a year. I don't know that he's playing to the eyeball test. I don't think he played much worse this year, at all. But yeah, I mean, listen, would it surprise you if he was in the finals of the French Open next year? Yes, but only because that means Sinner or Alcaraz isn't.
Exactly.
But if he's in the semis, that doesn't surprise anyone.
Sure. Yeah,
no.
Exactly.
If he makes a run to quarters, semis, nothing surprising for Casper Ruud at this point. It would shock me more if he was ranked 25 as opposed to 8 next year.
Right. Yeah, I think sort of the 8 to 12 range is probably where he belongs. And I think you also make a good point that we should spread. Not all matches are created equal. And we do a show like this, and you sort of look, and the rankings do not follow win totals. So you win the right matches at the right time, and you can move up or down in the rankings. And I think you're right. I think capitalizing. I mean, you're right. You look at his results, and Madrid, great result. It's got to sting a little that he didn't back it up at Roland Garros. But I think you're right. If he does some real damage in clay, he sets himself up nicely. If he doesn't, it's going to be hard for him to be a top 10 player.
Yeah, non-negotiable for him being a top 10 player is damage at Masters Series events and making a run to a semi. Every other time where he's been in that, and credit to him, he's been a top 5, top 8 player for a long time.
Right. Well, he's had a great career. This is a maximizer. This is not a disappointer.
We're preaching to someone who knows how to do this and has done it. Right. So this is wasted breath. We're not saying anything that he doesn't know when he looks in the mirror. I think he's closer to 8 than he is to, dropping down further. Personally, Bublik, what the hell? Where is he going to be next year, JW? This guy goes from 70 something, a good quote, kind of goes with the confuse and conquer method when he's playing. And obviously he was going to turn his year in life around at Roland Garros this year, right? Like that was the obvious thing. This is why I love tennis. Makes no sense.
It makes no sense to him either. And I think to his great credit, he's like, I'm as baffled as you are. We all remember the story. He's outside the top 80, blows out of Indian Wells, and then, blows off some steam in Vegas. And then he goes and wins the Weller Evans Open in Phoenix, and that starts to kickstart things. And then you ask him, and he says, "You know what? I don't even think I want to be a top player." He is a baffling guy. I get the feeling baffling to himself. The results are all over the map. I mean, whoever he's taking down Minaur and Draper on clay, beating Sinner. Then he beat Sinner on grass.
He had one of those
that Roland Garros. Let's go find that run. That is one of the more stunning results you will find.
He had one of those runs where it was like, oh, Demon. I'm like, oh, Demon will tough him out. Like Demon in the extended format comes back from 2 sets down. Oh yeah, okay. And then Draper, like we forget, we're gonna get to Draper next, but like Draper was maybe the 3rd best player in the world for the first 4 months of the year. Like Rip City was like playing great on clay. Bublik, that was the day that we shot the Andrey interview, was when Bublik and Draper were on. And Andrey was like, I think Bublik has a chance. I'm like, no, he doesn't. And guess what? Is he a top 8 guy, JW? Or is this
he's
the
11.
most fun story ever?
He's 11 and he's defending nothing until the big Phoenix Open. Your guess is as good as his.
He's going to get to the top 10 because he has nothing for the first 3.5 months. But where does he end next year? If I give you over under top 20, Bublik next year,
I'd say no. I'd say he's outside the top 20. I just, but I this sport in particular, you need a certain measure of consistency, and who the hell knows? But this is a guy who's, I think. Big guy, deceptively athletic, can dial in that serve,
and also like if he doesn't know what he's going to do, how the hell are you supposed to guard against it?
Goes to these matches sometimes, and he says, I don't think I'm going to hit too many second serves, and he's just hitting, 132 second serve. I mean, it's so annoying. Great to have him in the cast.
Oh, great! I love characters.
It's like crypto. We love characters. All right, who else we got?
Crazy. Draper. Draper is it's just health. And this one disappointed me because he felt like a guy through the first 4 months with what he did to Carlos at Indian Wells and then playing Madrid on clay and translating and making a final there. And you felt like Ruud kind of stuck around until he was able to edge him out in that final. But you're looking at this guy going, oh, this and also with the U.S. Open semi the year before, right? And that's, we lost to Sinner. It's like, is this one of the guys that can actually interrupt this stranglehold? And he felt like that guy. For the first 4 or 5 months of the year, when he is in full flight, he looks the part of someone who's a top 3-4 player, right? And now, how does that translate over time? Can he get his body healthy? We thought he was going to come back for the U.S. Open. Shoulder not quite there. I hope he stays healthy because what he showed for that pocket of, September, late August through May 24 going into 25 was very exciting for the sport of tennis.
He finished in the top 10. He won 1 match after Wimbledon.
Yep. Did a lot of work.
that tells you what kind of a first half of the year he had, but also you just worry about the health. And this is the anti-Bublik. I mean, this is someone who is very much attuned with how he is going to minimize volatility and how he's going to do everything in his power to improve. And it's diet and exercise and health. And he's very involved in his rehab, and just the recovery hasn't been there. And it's not because this guy's blowing off his rehab. So at full health, this is a top 5 player. He's already proven that.
I agree.
I just worry. I mean, he lost him to Marin Cilic in the second round of Wimbledon. Played one match at the U.S. Open, won that, and then didn't post for round 2, and that was in late August.
And there's going to be people need to understand how the rankings work too. 52-week ranking. So he stacked all of his points in the first 5 months of last year. So when you see his ranking potentially go from 10, let's say he actually plays well at Indian Wells and makes the quarters or the semis, he's going to be underwater with that result based on points coming off, right? So I think this ranking will probably get worse before he's able to kind of make a charge towards better. But I just wanted this story to continue this year, and unfortunately health got in the way. I hope that at some point we get back to that level that we saw at Indian Wells, because that was really exciting. And I don't know that it was a stretch to say this guy looks like a disruptor and could potentially have the firepower to do it. So I hope he gets healthy. Another person with certainly the firepower to be a disruptor, Ben Shelton. And I talked to Brian Shelton, Ben's dad, a couple of weeks ago, just kind of going through, I don't know if my opinions are right or wrong, but just kind of going through his game. And I told him, I said, I was heartbroken for Ben at the U.S. Open, because the thing that you want as a pro tennis player is to get to the point where you build, and then you are pretty close to positive about what your output is going to be on a given day. And Ben had gotten to that point by winning Canada. Every time he stepped on the court, you knew that it was going to be a pretty good product, right? Like there wasn't the peaks and valleys. The consistency was there, learning how to manage the game and all that stuff. And then, it kind of was, injury again, which in that second round, I think, at the U.S. Open. And I was just heartbroken, because it takes months and months and months and years and years and years to get to the point where that output is predictable and you look like a top 5 guy. Ben had that. He had gotten to that point, and then injury interrupted it. I was really excited about his prospects at the U.S. Open before that injury, John.
Yeah, I mean, that was a disappointing day and concerning as well. I mean, you figure this is a pretty bad injury if he's ripcording at the U.S. Open. At the same time, I think a darn good year overall. And I think some of this was a result. Obviously, the Canada was sort of the highlight. He won 40 matches. He won on all surfaces. He came back and won some after that injury. And I think if we're looking at this career longitudinally, he's 23 years old. He's no longer just throwing heat. I mean, he's really becoming a much more nuanced player. The results at majors are going to disappoint, but I think on balance, I think this was a very solid year. And I think there are a lot of positive takeaways. I also think sometimes you see fathers in particular coaching players, and you sort of say, oh boy, this thing's not going to go away till this thing's not going to get better. Brian Shelton is a proper coach. This was a top 50 player. This is a guy who really studies the sport. This is not the guy who's there for the badge and the players lounge.
This is not the father coach who has the job because he was the father coach when the person was like 11. Brian Shelton was a top 50 player, made deep runs, I think 4th round at Wimbledon. My favorite stat is that I think he's the only person ever to coach a women's team to an NCAA title and a men's team to an NCAA title. Good. So talk about knowing the information, being able to deliver it to different styles, different types of play. And by the way, my son got up to 6th in the world under my tutelage as well. So Brian Shelton is the real deal. I actually think he would be a phenomenal episode. I would love that one at some point. I'm going to say this about our next guy, Musetti. Finishes at 8 in the world. I think we've become used to Musetti now the last couple of years. He was someone you looked at on a fast surface 2 years ago, certainly 3 years ago, and went, no chance. You were like, no, like he's not going to be like, he was the guy who was ranked 30, and then Bublik would play him when Bublik was ranked 90, and you go, oh, Bublik's going to run through this on a fast court. Like, that's just the way it worked. He turned everything around in the summer of 24, Queen's final, Wimbledon semi, and has kept it, right? We've had enough cautionary tales of people who have a couple of big results and then kind of fade back to the mean. Not dissimilar, like Mensik we mentioned, and he has his whole career ahead of him, so it might not even matter. But he took that progress and has completely made himself into a different player. Clay, fast, kind of always there. Does he have, the big enough weapons on serve to challenge Carlos or Jannik and the bigs? I don't know, but who does? But point being, he took this kind of liability on faster surfaces, anything outside of clay. He looked like one of the old school clay court specialists to me for a fair amount of his early career. Guy has learned how to be effective on every surface. Massive props and respect for that.
I don't know what the ceiling is. It's a top 8 player, and he didn't win a single tournament. But I think you're right. And I think it's a little
Holy
like
Fokina.
Paolini-esque. Yeah, holy Fokina, exactly. But the he's also, it's only 20. He's got kids, and we've known his name for a while. Remember, it was a teenager. He took 2 sets off Novak at Roland Garros. He's 23 years old. So he's still figuring out this riddle as well. I think you're right. It's a little, I don't know. It's not a perfect analogy, but it's a little like Paolini, where there was sort of this revelatory year, and it was sort of like, okay, what's the next step? Can you sustain this? Will you be here next year? And here he is still in the top 8, winning a lot of matches. No tournaments, but a lot of matches.
He's sneaky younger than we all think, too, because he's been around a minute. Right? Like, when you start winning matches when you're 17, 18 on tour, and we know your name, and then, 5-6 years pass, and we think you're 29, but you're actually, what is he, 23, 24, something like that?
The kids' pictures throws us off every time.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, he's made, we call 25-year-olds up-and-comers now, and he's made a lot of progress with his game, and he's still, pretty young. Props to him, was happy to see it. Alex de Minaur, I went on a rant this year after he got run out of the building by Sinner in Australia. And everyone's like, yo, man, this guy's... I'm like, shut up. Like, you talk about someone who maximizes. You talk about someone who, when you listen to him talk about tennis, you never say, well, that was dumb. Never. Total, doesn't serve huge, is effective off the baseline, knows how to play, and still in World Tour finals, he's frustrated because, that steel ceiling of the big guys. I don't know if it's something he'll ever break through, and I don't know that my respect could grow for this guy in the way that he goes about his business. Health was a bit of an issue this year, but he's the kind of guy that maybe Carlos and Jannik aren't stressed by seeing in the draw. And then I promise you, anyone outside of the top 10, seeing his name most weeks, you're like, this sucks. I don't want to have to deal with this guy.
He won 56 matches this year.
He's a fucking animal.
Guy is
guy's
exactly
an animal.
Week in, week out.
Every week.
On any surface, every week. And I think you're right. I mean, look, he's very open about this. Sort of, he knows what the deal is, and he knows what the challenge is. And are you a guy who makes quarterfinals and wins the odd title and wins a lot of matches, or are you really going to be a competitor against these two guys? I mean, he sort of knows what the challenge is, and I would submit that, it's great to sort of have a game plan and know what the objective is. And if he gets there, great. And if not, and he's merely a guy who wins more than 50 matches reliably every year, there's nothing to be ashamed of with that either.
He's also, when we look back at the Australian tennis culture, right? And we think of the all-time great guys, the Emersons, the Lavers, the Rosewalls, you will not find better people, competitors, humans into rafters. And listen, Leighton and I...
Ash Barty.
Leighton and I got into a million fights, and also maybe the best competitor I've ever played. Nice to see someone who kind of pays homage to the back generations of Aussie players by putting on their hard hat and going to work, doing it the right way. Props to Alex de Minaur.
Fair dinkum, as they say. All right, what do we got next?
Fair dinkum, mate. Yeah, all that one. Taylor Fritz, end of last year, 4-6. You know, this really comes down to breaking through against Alcaraz and Sinner, and this is going to be a common theme, right? He's getting to those points and slams most of the time now, or Novak at the U.S. Open, right? Hasn't beaten Novak yet. You know, is a tough matchup against Sinner, and Alcaraz, tough four setter at Wimbledon in the semis, but he's there. Like, it's not hard to be top 4 or 6 in the world, and he's kind of doing it every year now. Like, that's not nothing at all. It's a big deal.
And sort of a strange season, some sort of ups and downs. Did not win a hardcore title, and yet still hit that 50-win threshold. Did he win a hardcore title?
He might have won Del Rey.
I thought he won a.
Maybe I'm wrong. That might have been the year before. Anyways, go ahead.
I know you. In a weird way, and I don't think, listen, he gets to the final of the 2024, the last major of 2024, doesn't come close to that in 2025. I think by his standards, it's not a disastrous, dire situation. It probably didn't quite live up to his expectation. I also thought Taylor Fritz sort of revealed himself to the tennis public this year. He's really smart. He's really funny. He's really informed. He has opinions and his takes. He sort of became this moral leader. So I'm not sure there was a breakthrough results-wise. He's still a top 6 player. But I think in a weird way, he sort of changed his standing in the tennis world. Having strong, informed, intelligent opinions, I realize, doesn't buy you ranking points. But I think sort of as a composite, Taylor Fritz in a weird way was a revelation this year.
And this one, as you're kind of getting ready for a show and going through the rankings, FAA finishing the year at 5. He lost, was it to Sinner at Cincinnati, like 0-2, and he was like barely top 30 in the world, like struggling for like maybe 2 years-ish, and finishes at 5. Right? What does this mean going for 2026? Because we have seen Felix, who, by the way, is another just like citizen, right? Like an absolute proper gentleman. But like, what does this mean? Because we've seen him get on the heater indoors before to close a year out. And I don't know that it always translates into the next year. Will it translate this year, JW?
I think it has to. And some of this, he won 50 matches this year. I believe more than half of that.
Oh, sure.
Came post Canada.
For sure.
I mean, I think he literally, I think it was 20. Let's actually do a little research here. In real time. I believe he was 28 at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, he's seeded 28.
What a fall. I mean, what a ascent, meaning what an autumn. What an autumn. Yeah, he was 28 at the U.S. Open and finishes 5. And between the confidence and also not having to defend a whole lot, it's not like he's chasing 1,000 points in Miami. I think, yeah. And we all, I always, sometimes we sort of like these players on a personal level. We have nice interactions, or fans enjoy them. And we sometimes can conflate our impression of their tennis with how much we like them personally. There's sort of this halo effect where we can't differentiate the tennis potential from how much we like them on a personal level. There's a lot of good tennis here. And this is a guy who doesn't necessarily, I mean, they're going to be better servers. They're better players off the ground, but you sort of put everything together. There's a lot to like here. He's still in this meaty prime of his career. And you take what he's done over the last 90 days and you sort of say, whoa, this completely changes the picture here. This is someone who probably cannot wait for the next season to start because he doesn't want to lose any momentum.
Yeah, I agree. And very interested to see how he comes out of the gate this year. Seems like can you think of like a streakier player on tour where when it's all is good, he looks like a top 5 guy. And then when it's not great, it's like we're struggling to choose him to get through 2 rounds. I think I had him losing first round of the US Open.
I mean, I feel like we have this discussion sometime on the women's side of like, boy, if everything's clicking, she can make a deep run. And if not, it's out by the first Monday. It's funny too, because Felix is so measured in everything else.
Yeah.
But the tennis result, I mean, but Bublik is very consistent. His tennis results are on brand. Felix is very sort of buttoned up and measured in every way except his tennis results. But this, I mean, what a 90-day stretch out of nowhere.
Yeah, if he was, let me know what you think about this. If Felix was like a bit of a nutter off the court, we would use the term streaky a lot more with him.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I think that's right. Anyways.
Good.
And then number 4 is like,
where do we go here?
This age, last 4, it's as if he can turn on and off being a top 3 or 4 player in the world. And that's Novak Djokovic, right? Where it's like, I don't know, how do we judge this year against his career? It was like any year where he's not winning a major for him, that's probably disappointing. And also, this was insane to watch this year. He was like a part-time tennis player who was the 3rd best player in the world. It's a joke. It's so impressive.
You said this. You said sort of from our generation, the Jimmy Connors 1991 run.
That's
sort
it.
Of, hey, Grandpa, turn up the volume. Geritol. This guy is a year younger, and he made the semis of all 4 majors. And we have this kind of, we have this rage against the dying of the light theme. He also won a couple tournaments in addition to those 4 runs at the 4 majors. I just think there is this sort of existential. I mean, at this stage in his career, if he cannot get it done against the guys who are ranked number 1 and number 2, do you still say, you could go either way. You could say either this is a batshit crazy conversation, I'm still a top 4 player in the world in what I choose to do, or you say, I've won enough of these majors. If I can't win another one, what am I doing here? I mean, there's a big range of outcome here. What do you think?
You ready for a tinfoil hat conversation?
Ooh, where are we going here?
No, this is simple. It's not that dramatic, I promise.
Yeah.
But we forget stuff very easily, right? Do you remember way back when it looked like Sinner was on his way out of Wimbledon?
Yeah, sure, against Dimitrov.
And let's assume some health for Novak. Sinner loses in that tournament.
Yep. It's very interesting.
I'm just saying, like, that Sinner matchup is rough because he's like playing the prime version of himself. It's like, can he D up against Sinner's power? Sinner likes to get on their front foot. Does he have the defensive ability? He's not faster than he was 2 years ago, obviously. That's not a criticism. I say this all with amazement. I don't know. We act like there's no chance that anyone could, like, Sinner was on his way out of that tournament and Dimitrov blew out his pectoral muscle, right? He was most likely going to win that match. And then it changes. Like, Carlos wasn't, I mean, you say this, but like, we judge him against his own shadow now, but like, Carlos didn't play amazingly well at Wimbledon this year. Like, he's, compared to what we've seen from Carlos in the past, now he's going to be he is an all-time great already, number 1 player in the world, but like, very couple of little things shift in Novak. I don't know. Like, I'm not done. I'm not done with that conversation yet.
I think A, you're right, and I think B, we've got data points here, right? There is Roger Federer beat Marin Cilic, I think, to win his last 2 majors. I mean, there is a history of the draw gods working in strange ways. There is also a history of Novak in a one match for history context. Most recently, 2024 Summer Games, right?
The question is, and he was questioning this after the U.S. Open, I don't know that he can train the way he used to. I would suspect you can't train that psychotically, and I mean that in a good way, at 38 years old. And if you can't do that, can you get your body to hold up over the course of 2 weeks at a major best of 5? The answer this year was no, to his own admission, right? It was like, I don't know if my body can do it. And then when I get to the semis, am I going to beat these guys if my body is damaged goods by the time I get there? That's the whole thing for this conversation.
I'll also, here's this is sort of informed speculation. This is sort of reported speculation, but he really likes this challenge. That some people, oh God, I got to get up a bit. I used to win these majors, and now I've got to go through these. I think he loves this challenge of bending time. And I mean, you knowing him a little bit, sort of you sense that anyway, but talking to people who are very close to him, I think he really, the great ones always find, Michael Jordan, the great ones always find something. Sometimes it's completely concocted. Sometimes it's a legitimate rival. I think he loves this challenge of, can I outflank time? And I think he's leaning into that.
Alex Zverev, a lot of criticism. We say a lot of things. Obviously, him not winning a major leads the conversation most times. Maybe had a year he wasn't real super pumped about. And number 3 in the world.
That's half empty versus half full. Yeah, I mean, we've talked. He lost 25 matches at number 3. The guy who's ranked number 2 lost, I think 5 matches. He had one title and 25 defeats is a lot for a guy who's ranked number 3 in the world, and not a lot of titles. And I think we've talked about this. To his credit, he knows what the deal is. Whatever whipped cream and shit is, that would apply here. I mean, he's not deluding himself. He gets to the finals in Australia, feels really good about his chances, doesn't get it done against Sinner, and then the rest of the year goes a little bit awry after that.
I will also say, I know firsthand information about injuries he was dealing with this year and what he was playing through. I don't feel like he feels the need to talk about it all the time, which part of me really respects. And also there's a massive, it's realistic, it's fair, and it also sucks that his entire career is going to be defined by if he can beat those guys twice in a row in a major and win one. That's it. Yeah. That's the entire thing. He knows it.
Yep.
He knows it also.
That's the thing. Yeah. He has not deluded himself here.
And it's just, he's a phenomenal player. The career resume is amazing. I think he has to, his backhand's amazing, crush and rush off of second serves, serve and volley a little bit more. Do these things where every point of aggression isn't about picking out the right ball and doing something uncomfortable 3 or 4 shots into a rally. I think it's about blunt force trauma type aggression where you're choosing to do this and play this way from the first ball, and then all of a sudden it makes your stock game of wanting to drift back a little bit more effective. That's what I think. I think playing the backhand inside out from the return position sometimes to where people aren't just stepping left to kind of receive your ball. I think that kind of the injection of aggression versus a wholesale change on your weakest shot, which is most likely going to end not even whipped cream on top of shit, just with shit. That's not a simple thing to do. If I'm him, I'm thinking more about, my second serve is massive now. Is there a world where I can pull the string and hit at 92 and also hit at 115, right? Without disrupting the rhythm that I've come to enjoy. So all of those little things I think matter. That's the way I would be thinking about it if I was in the Zverev camp, as opposed to retooling a technically flawed forehand and pretending like it's automatically going to be better against people that can bother you to that side already. I don't know that that's the solution.
That's a good point. That it's too easy to say, he needs to be more aggressive.
No
shit.
What's
the context?
I need to hit topspin on my backhand.
Yeah,
I can't.
Exactly. I need
to
hit my spots on my. Yeah, I need to hit my spots on my serve. Great, go out there and do it. Yeah. But I also think a lot of this is context dependent. I just think, look, it's exactly it is what it is. The guy is a really, really good player. He wins 57 matches on this quasi disappointing year
every year.
Can he get it done against the two guys? But this is kind of the overarching theme for men's tennis. I think before we get to these two, I think overall this is a really good. It's a good problem to have. We have 2 generationally talented players. They're locked in this rival. They're really good. They play on all surfaces. They win reliably. Let's not waste too much time talking about sort of where's the rest of the cast. I think we don't do enough time celebrating these 2 guys before we pivot immediately into why are there not more challengers to the throne.
Yeah, and we'll get to obviously Sinner now. Finishes 2 in the world. Wins Wimbledon, almost wins the French Open, loses in the finals of the U.S. Open, almost finishes 1, misses 3 months. And I have a question for you, JW, because I know he's automatically on the short list. Best ball striker of all time. Who is it?
Andre. Lindsay Davenport. Sinner's up there. I mean, Sinner's.
And
this is Andre caliber.
I'm not saying that I'm ready to go there. I think I had again in the mysterious Eubank shows that will come out at some point. Like, we had this conversation, and I said Andre, and he was like, I mean, how do you define it? Consistently being able to square it up with pace, able to bully someone off the spot just by ball striking, right? Before we get into spins and everything else, that's not what he does to bother people and smother people. I think he's in that conversation. We are looking at a generational talent, especially with the ball striking. It's not as if he's going out there and flipping a ball up or changing paces or like, he comes out and his stock game is, I'm going to get on my front foot. And once I do, you can't get away from me. Like, there's nowhere to go. You can't go through me. Once I get a hold of a rally, which is oftentimes from the return, you can't get control of the rally again unless you're Carlos, because he has the ability to create spin, drop shots, movement. He's the only person that can get out of like the Brett the Hitman Hart 4-figure leg lock. He's the only person that can get out of it once he's in it.
Oh man, that is a great reference.
Thank you.
I had a coach say something very similar, which is he is the most deceptively good athlete, and we're not talking about Monfils and vertical leaps. We're talking about someone that puts him in position to start dictating play. And you look at his legs and you look at his stride, and sometimes athleticism is crazy tweeners, and other times it's getting out on that front foot and getting one shot into a rally and knowing that you are now controlling play and you are imposing yourself because of your athleticism. I mean, what? Just stepping back. I mean, what a year!
Unbelievable.
Dealing with we can litigate this some other time, but there was a 90-day anti-doping sanction, the plea bargain thrown in there. He actually won more money than Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, this is our prize money leader despite this 90-day absence. And he very nearly won 3 majors.
Right. And I hope we've given Sinner enough props this year for what he's been able to do, how he's been able to, like you mentioned it, compartmentalize. Like, think what you want about the suspension, right? Take a minute. Let's all have 3 seconds. Okay, great. Now, if we're all riled up one way or the other, put that to the side and say, regardless of your, posturing or opinions on it, let's acknowledge the ability to compartmentalize and take like this vacuum of polarizing attention, and then you come back in Rome and the output's the same. It's fucking insane.
Right.
It's absurd.
And you're off to the races.
What he was able to do, just crazy.
Exactly.
And we've talked about this before, and I think this is with Carlos also, and the way he's talked about, hey, I needed 2 months to prepare. Being that good and then being able to actually check your ego to improve is not something normal. Like, that's not something, like, I wasn't even close, and I'm an idiot. And people are like, well, you have to adjust this. I'm like, fuck no, this works really well. Like, that, the ability for, like, the lack of ego with these two to adjust to each other is not something that you see all of the time. And I feel like we've already touched on Carlos a little bit, because it's gotten to the point where it's impossible to talk about one's excellence without talking about the other's excellence. But Carlos Alcaraz, I mean, match of the ages. I think the best 12 or whatever it was, 13-point sequence that I've ever seen someone execute at the end of that French Open final after 5.5 hours on court. It's something I will never forget in my entire life, was what he was able to do. It looked like he was playing a video game using himself at the end of that French Open match. And then what he did, the U.S. Open final, I think, was peak Alcaraz to this point in his career. Just, he has this gear that maybe Earth doesn't have when it's all going right.
I would, if we're doing a recap, if you're a fan, go back and watch what Andy's talking about. Go back and watch the last 15 minutes. And, we talk about, so it's the last round of the heavyweight fight, and these guys are all gassed and they're getting, you would never have known that we were 5 hours into this high stakes classic match That says a lot about his physical durability. That says a lot about sort of mentally where his head is, the quality, just on a sheer tennis quality level that Carlos Alcaraz brought at that point was a joke, and I thought said so much about him. And I think one theme of this year is like rivalry is really awesome. And part of it is for fans' purposes, and it's always good to, you take your side. But rivalry also makes you a better athlete, player, runner, whatever it is. And what you see is not just two guys that have distanced themselves from the field, but two guys that continue to improve because the other is on their heels. And I think that's one of sort of the themes here. And I think Carlos is a real beneficiary of that. We've talked about the differences between approach and between the game of these two guys, and one of them is, it's what do you say? You're a heart rate monitor versus more of a flat line. It's a wonderful contrast. Carlos, a couple more ranking points, a couple fewer dollars won. I think he's probably your MVP. 8 titles.
I don't know, like
9 losses, 8 titles.
One other thing that I think is worth mentioning before we close this show is let's rewind all the way back to Miami. Loses to David Goffin and had been underwhelming to that point in the year. Lost the week before to Draper, lost to Novak in Australia, didn't play well at the end of 2024, kind of got run out of Turin that year. And then the conversation is, okay, the upside is unmatched, but the inconsistency is crazy, and that became kind of like a very fair narrative. And then that narrative bled on too long because he did not make a final pretty much for the next 8 months. Right. So like we need to put that to bed because I think we still hear people doing that. I'm like, what does consistency look like if not for the last 8 months of Carlos Alcaraz during this tennis season?
You don't think 71 match wins in 2 majors is pretty good consistency?
I mean, he didn't play well the first 3 months of the year and did that, right? Like it's phenomenal. And like he basically was like, oh yeah, I'm not consistent. Here you go. I'll be in the finals every single week of every single tournament from here on out. JW, before we close here, do you have some honorable mentions just real quick to reel off for us? We get to the top 20. Who's kind of piquing your interest? Who deserves props? Who are you looking at going into next year?
Oh man. I Lerner, Tien, and Fonseca, both of them breaching the walls of the Citadel and proving that they belong. I think, Fonseca, you hear accusations of hype and everybody needs to settle down. This guy's a teenager. He's in the top 25 and he won at least one round at every major. I think that's pretty good. We would be remiss not to acknowledge the cousins, Arthur Rinderknecht and Vachereau, which was a great heartstring story. I think you take a step back and men's tennis, pretty darn good place. You have these two towering champions and they're locked into this rivalry. They're not letting anyone on the drawbridge isn't going up. You've got Novak hanging on. You've got younger players. You've got players trying to solve mysteries. We wish everyone were healthier. We wish the schedule were different. It's very easy to sort of go down the road of gripes, but I think overall, very nice year. Both tours, but men, we're talking men now. I think
Fonseca
sports in a good place.
Fonseca and Turin next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Top 8. Yeah.
One name that we don't, and I don't like always agree with a lot of the stuff. Like he got into it with a fan and so but one of the more undertold stories of this year, I think, is Denis Shapovalov. Goes from, his top 10 goes down to 150 and is kind of like searching for an extended period of time. He's 23 in the world right now. Again, like
good.
That's pretty good playing. And that's a big comeback story that I don't think anyone has talked about enough just because we apply the expectation set from 5 years ago to him at all times. Right. But like going from 150 and kind of having lost the plot a little bit and maybe being uninspired. And then, you look up and I'm going, oh shit, Shapo is at 23 in the world. Like that's where he finished this year. So props to him. I don't think that was, I don't think that was talked about enough. Someone who let's see where this goes, but like had a massive, massive step backwards this year. And the game is just phenomenal. And you hope that it feels like when he talks about it, he's trying to find the thing is Stefanos Tsitsipas. This is someone we took for granted in the top 5 for a long time. Will he find, some form? Has an early result in the Middle East coming off. I think it's more fun when he's in the mix. I think his flair and his talent, the ability that he has to pull some crazy, I think it's great. I hope he gets back. Last week's guest, Francis Tiafoe, I don't know that we would have had him at 30 going into this year. So let's see if he can turn that around and create a little bit more consistency. But what a year it was. Onward, upward. I can't wait. Listen, we can make all the predictions in the world, but the beauty of tennis and sports is that it's the world's best reality show. We don't actually know. Nothing's a guarantee. We wouldn't have said 2 years ago that, Novak was locked out of slams. So this is amazing. I hope it's been a year full of appreciation and gratitude for the output of these phenomenal athletes in a year full of unbelievable tennis champions, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things I'm most grateful for, JW, is our listeners. Can't believe that this little garage show now has people who come in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, every week to listen to us talk about the sport we love. It's just such a gift to be able to talk about it. It's such a gift to us that's never unappreciated, that you all care enough to choose to listen to us. The team has just been phenomenal. JW, no matter where you are in the world, we appreciate you always showing up for us. Thank you for listening to Served this year, and we can't wait to do bigger and better things next year. Cheers. AI is only as powerful as the platform it's built on. With the ServiceNow AI platform, your AI, data, and workflows all work together, connecting every corner of your business. To see how you can put AI to work for people, visit servicenow.com/AI-agents.